Welcome students. Today we are going to learn how to do the redox titrations. Now redox titration syllabus is for 12th standard students, 12th science. And in the redox titrations we have two type of titrations. KMnO4 versus oxalic acid and KMnO4 versus more salt solutions. So today I am going to explain you KMnO4 versus oxalic acid titration. Listen to this video or see this video carefully and every instruction carefully so that when you come for your regular practical, you will be able to do the practical directly by following this particular video. Follow the instructions same as it is explained in this video. Now today's titration is, as I told you, KMnO4 versus oxalic acid. Okay. So the aim that is given is titration. You are provided with two solutions as follows. Container A is 0.12 normal solution of hydrated oxalic acid. Container B is KMnO4 solution. Always container B is KMnO4 solution. KMnO4 solution is dark pink color. This is a color, and container B means I have taken it in a beaker. So for you also it will be given in a beaker only. And container A solution is in this flask for today, but otherwise you will have to collect it in a small beaker. Using these two solutions, you have to calculate the normality of solution in container B, that is KMnO4 solution, and you also have to find out the strength in terms of grams per 660 ml. So this is the aim that is given. Now any titration, when you proceed, you need to write the theory. Write the theory first and then write the observations on the left hand side of your notebook. The observation goes burette solution. Burette solution is always KMnO4 solution for redox titrations. Pipette solution. Pipette solution is the other solution, that is oxalic acid solution. Then you, from the pipette, you transfer the solution into the conical flask. This is conical flask. So when you transfer the solution in a conical flask, that is 10 ml of oxalic acid, tube of dilute H2SO4. Okay, and then heat the reaction mixture and then titrate it against the KMnO4 solution. So before you actually start the practical, you need to write down all the observations by referring the theory that you have written. You must know the theory very well, because in the exam you will be expected to write down the theory, and from theory you will write observations. Only after that you will be starting with the apparatus. Okay. So when you start with the apparatus, this is the burette stand to which the burette is fixed. There are two conical flasks. There is one 250 ml beaker and then 100 ml beaker. Then this is the pipette which is fitted here. After you finish the practical, you arrange all the apparatus in this fashion after washing all the apparatus in the same manner. Right now I am removing this pipette and keeping it safely. These are all glassware. You need to handle them carefully so that there is no breakage. No breakage at all in the laboratory. So that carefully you have to work. And there is a tile below this burette. This tile has a purpose, because in the conical flask the color change will happen of the reaction mixture. So in this case, today's case, the color changes from colorless to light pink, because oxalic acid is colorless. So I am going to pipette out this oxalic acid 10 ml, to that dilute sulfuric acid, and then I am going to heat that reaction mixture, and then I am going to titrate that hot mixture against the KMnO4 solution. So this is the process. So let us actually learn how to do this. Okay. So the first step to do any titration is to wash the apparatus. So you will be given with this plastic beaker or a mug. Okay. So in this you collect water from the tap, and then don't wash your apparatus directly from the basin. collect the water in a beaker and then wash both the conical flask first and throw the contents in the basin after washing. So your conical flasks are ready. Conical flasks to be washed with water only. Then I will wash first the beakers. Beakers are 250 ml beakers. And then it is 100 ml beaker which I am going to wash with water. You need to carry a napkin always because your fingers have to be dry when you are performing the laboratory. Carry a soft cotton material napkin. Okay, it can be this way napkin or it can be old bed sheet. Okay, any cotton material which absorbs water properly. So keep it handy. Keep it always in the pocket of your lab coat. This is the lab coat which you need to wear for every practical. You all are 12th standard students. In 11th standard you are already having the lab coats. So same lab coats you bring for practicals. Keep this lab coat and napkin, your journal and lab manual, lab notebook, all in one plastic bag, so that when you want to come for the practical, then you just collect that bag and come. So you have no excuse to say that I forgot lab manual, I forgot lab notebook, I forgot my journal, I forgot my lab coat. No excuses. Everything you keep it together, so when you come for practical you find it handy, things handy when you come to college on the day of the practical. So you have to wear a lab coat. Lab coat is for protecting your uniform. You are wearing a uniform. I am not wearing a uniform. Okay. So, but you all are wearing a uniform and you may not have many uniforms. You need to protect your uniform. So when you perform in the laboratory, you need to protect your uniform from getting stained or acid being fallen on it. So for that you need to wear, it is must wearing a lab coat. Okay. And after washing this conical flask and beakers, now it is the turn for washing the burette. Now how to wash a burette? I may remove this burette from the burette stand or I will keep it as it is. It is better to keep it on the burette stand only. You can just lower the burette slightly so that if you are short then you can reach this upper rim of the burette. Just add water, but before you add water you check that you have stoppered that burette. Stoppered that burette means what? Close this. And you take 100 ml beaker and collect these washings in this beaker. Okay, just empty that burette in which you have filled water. So automatically the inner, now burette is emptied. So I will throw away these washings in the beaker. And now my job is to rinse the burette. I am going to fill this KMnO4 solution in the burette. My burette solution is KMnO4 solution from container B. So this solution, burette solution, I will take it and I will pour it. Now while pouring it in the beaker, see this is a narrow cylindrical tube of burette. So I need to touch this rim of the beaker to the burette and fill only this. There is a 25 ml mark, 25-24 ml. So up till this mark only I will fill the burette and I will allow the solution to run down. Now why rinsing is important? Because when I wash the inner walls with water, some droplets of water are inside. So those few droplets of water may change the concentration of the solution, KMnO4 solution. So in order to have an accurate concentration of the solution, I need to rinse the burette with that respective solution which I am going to fill in. And that solution should run through this nozzle, because in the nozzle also there are droplets of water. So they should also flush out. So it should run through this, and now these are the rinsings. Okay. Now what I will do, this particular KMnO4 which I have used for rinsing, this beaker I will tilt it like this. And I will try to wash or rinse the inner walls of this small beaker. Now this KMnO4 beaker is bigger, so it is little inconvenient. So I will fill in this KMnO4 solution after rinsing the small beaker and take a KMnO4 solution in this beaker. And now I will stopper this burette The stopper means what? I will close this. Okay. Otherwise all solution will fall down. And now I need to fill the solution in the burette. I need to fill the burette. Now I will fill it completely. Little above the 0 mark. So this is the 0 mark. This is the 0 mark, 0 line. Little above the 0 line I have taken the solution. Now why I need to take little more than that? In the same beaker I will collect the solution because I already rinsed the burette. I need to fill also the nozzle. So I will look at the solution on top and I will lower the solution level till the 0 mark. I need to adjust the upper meniscus. So in your explanation which I am sending you, the document of the written document, the PDF file, in that I have drawn a diagram and shown you what is 0 line and how the colored solution. For colored solution we always have to mark the upper meniscus. See this, can you see it's come down because it is leaking, the burette is leaking. So I will refill the burette. If at all the level comes down, you need to refill the burette and adjust the 0 level again. Stopper it slightly tightly but not very tightly, otherwise that stopper will break of the burette. Just sufficient, okay, so that the drops of KMNO4 are not falling out. Only that tightly. So now look at this 0 level. The upper meniscus is touching the, so you can see. Once the burette is filled, and now I will come to the burette. The burette again seems to be leaking. So I'll just wipe this tile and I'll cross check this level in the 0 level in the burette. It might happen to you also. From burette to burette things are different. This seems to be slightly leaking, though I had stoppered it. So I just filled it again. Just 1 or 2 drops had fallen out, and then I will tighten it, and then so the 0 level needs to be adjusted. After washing the burette, you need to wash also the pipette. I will wash the pipette. This is a rubber bulb. Now this rubber bulb, I will fit it to the burette, and then I will press it like this, and then the bottom tip I will dip it in water and release that pressure on the rubber so that the water rises in the pipette, and then I will allow it to run out in the basin. So the inner walls of the pipette are also getting washed with water. Okay, so any impurities are there. Because we are going to take oxalic acid. Other than oxalic acid, nothing should be there in the pipette. To get an accurate reading, all these things are must and required. And you have got marks for accurate reading. Your readings, if they vary from the standard readings that we have taken, then you will lose marks, and therefore getting an accurate reading is very important to you. So what I will do, I will fit this and then press it so that all whatever water is there will go out on the other side. So my pipette is washed. So in the pipette solution, what did I say? I said pipette solution is oxalic acid. So this is oxalic acid. So oxalic acid may be given in this kind of volumetric flask, or it might be given in a beaker. So you have to whichever container, take this bulb in your left hand and then just fit it here to create an air pressure, and then dip this particular tip into the and then release this finger. So the solution is rising in the pipette. Suppose it is halfway only, just keep your index finger, again press this, again fit it here and again release the pressure, so that solution will rise again higher up. You may have to do 2-3 times like this to make the solution reach to the desired level. I am rinsing this. I will tilt this particular pipette slightly so till that the solution will go up till this red mark, and then I will allow the solution to run. So you have observed that I am operating this particular rubber with the left hand, pressing it with the left hand, and I am not fixing it here, but I am just holding it so that to create that air pressure. Okay. And immediately whenever I want to remove this, I will fix my index finger, right hand index finger onto this so that the solution will not run out. Okay. So I have thrown that rinsings. This was the rinsing step. Now let us take the solution up till this mark. So what I'll do, I'll dip this pipette into the solution. So from the bottom I will just slightly above press this bulb, just fit it here, apply, release the pressure on that rubber. The solution is rising. Suppose it is going down, again I will apply the pressure here, press it, and then fix this and release the pressure. Solution will rise down, rise up. So it is well above the line mark which is there on the pipette. And now with the index finger, I will hold this particular volumetric flask in my hand, and then I will release the pressure of my finger slowly. The solution should not run fast, it should come down slowly up till this mark, and when it reaches the mark, the lower meniscus touching the mark, I have to hold it in my eye level. Then transfer it into the first conical flask. I'll allow it to run down. So see, the last drop at the pipette, I will touch the tip of the pipette to the inner wall of the conical flask. Don't blow the pipette. This is the correct way of doing it. And then again I need to pipette out solution in another conical flask. So what will I do? I'll hold this pipette in my right hand with the index finger instantly ready whenever required to be fitted. I'll press this rubber, and then I'm holding it here, and then releasing the pressure on the rubber bulb. Solution is rising high up in the pipette, going down again. So again I pressed it and applied it up till this red mark, little below that red mark. I have pipeted out the solution, and then immediately I fix my index finger, and now I am releasing the pressure slowly. Solution is running down in the pipette. Now I am holding this bottom volumetric flask and the pipette in my hand. I am rising it high up with my eye level. That mark line should be with my eye level so that I don't make a visual error. So lower meniscus touches, and I am transferring it swiftly into the conical flask. I will keep this measuring cylinder, a measuring flask, volumetric flask aside, and I will transfer the contents into the conical flask. The last drop, I should not blow the pipette. I should touch it to the inner wall of the conical flask and remove that last drop. Keep in this shelf on your side, not side shelf, bench reagent. Bottle number 2 is dilute sulfuric acid. So you will take that bottle, remove the stopper, keep it aside, and take up. Then second conical flask also I am filling it. I am adding the 2 test tubes of dilute sulfuric acid. So now I am keeping the conical flask ready for titration to be performed. I will stopper the sulfuric acid bottle, replace it in its place. Don't keep anything extra things on your table. Okay, and then this test tube I will keep it separate in the test tube stand. This is a test tube stand here. I have kept it separately. This was oxalic acid. This is the bulb which I may need later. Now, before I do the titration for oxalic acid, I need to heat the reaction mixture. So there is a tripod. This is a tripod stand. This I am keeping it on the burner. And then I am keeping this wire gauge. And on top of this I will keep this. This I have to do for heating the reaction mixture. Now in the theory, why do we have to heat the reaction mixture? That reason I have already given. Now what is the reason? This is oxalic acid. To that I am going to add KMnO4 when I am doing the titration, isn't it? So when I start adding KMnO4 solution, that time one of the products formed, I will first tell you what are the products. The products formed are potassium sulfate, manganese sulfate, water and carbon dioxide. Means the overall reaction 2 KMnO4 plus 3 H2SO4 plus 5 molecules of oxalic acid is equal to K2SO4, 2 MnSO4, 8 H2O and 10 CO2. One of the product is gaseous carbon dioxide. Now this gaseous carbon dioxide, if you don't remove it from the reaction mixture, it is likely to react with the rest of the products which are formed in the conical flask when you start adding KMnO4. And it will start giving the backward reaction and again it will form the reactants, that is KMnO4 and oxalic acid and sulfuric acid. So if it starts giving a backward reaction, we will never reach an end point, we will never get a color change because that carbon dioxide is interfering, okay, and it is not allowing us or allowing that reaction to go to completion. Therefore, we will remove that carbon dioxide, and it's easy to remove the carbon dioxide because carbon dioxide is gaseous. Being gaseous in nature, we can evolve it from this reaction mixture by keeping the temperature of this reaction mixture about 60 degrees. The products formed, I will first tell you what are the products. The products formed are potassium sulfate, manganese sulfate, water and carbon dioxide. Means the overall reaction 2 KMnO4 plus 3 H2SO4 plus 5 molecules of oxalic acid is equal to K2SO4, 2 MnSO4, 8 H2O and 10 CO2. One of the product is gaseous carbon dioxide. Now this gaseous carbon dioxide, if you don't remove it from the reaction mixture, it is likely to react with the rest of the products which are formed in the conical flask when you start adding KMnO4. And it will start giving the backward reaction and again it will form the reactants, that is KMnO4 and oxalic acid and sulfuric acid. You have to just light the burner. For lighting the burner, see, for lighting the burner, this is the gas pipeline and there is an opening here. This way it is closed. Okay, so when you bring this knob in the line of the pipeline, it is open, and then here it is still closed. This also you have to bring it in the line of the pipeline. So it is open, and now I will light the burner. Okay, so now I will adjust the conical flask like this, and I am now heating the reaction mixture. I will be observant here. I will heat the reaction mixture in such a way that the vapors start coming out of this conical flask. You have to observe at this neck. When you prepare a tea, when the water, before it boils, there are the vapors which are coming out. So like that, vapors will start coming out of the conical flask. In between you can just stir this or shake this contents of the reaction mixture in the conical flask and keep observing. If you observe this particular mouth of the conical flask against dark background, then the vapors which are coming out, they are quite visible. Okay, so yet the vapors are not coming out. You can take a notebook page and make a paper strip like this and give it a fold or turn like this. Okay, and it is a hot, actually when you touch the rim it is not hot. You can see that I am holding it with the hand also. But if you feel it is very hot and this, then you can prepare a holder like this with the help of a paper, elongated, longitudinally. You fold the paper longitudinally, lengthwise. Okay, and then give it a turn like this and press it like this with the hand so that it is easily foldable and it is not stiff, and then put it against this and both ends you hold it tightly against this neck, and then you have to titrate the hot reaction mixtures. Now I will show you the fumes which are visible, which are coming out of the container against the dark background. The other side is a dark background, so it's still not come. The fumes are not come. You need to titrate the hot content with the KMnO4 solution. See, now can you see the fumes which are coming out? Slightly they are coming out. So approximately the 60-degree temperature is reached. Okay, so fumes are coming means 60 degrees temperature is reached. So and now I will take this hot content. I am holding it at the neck, and you are seeing now it is not very hot. I can hold this rim of the conical glass easily. Now the nozzle of the burette has to enter here near the mouth. It should not be on top, because sukuns are, if I move it this way and that way, the solution, a drop of a solution of KMnO4 may fall outside the conical glass. That should not happen. So I have to remove it like this. So it should not be easily moving at below the burette in any direction. The direction has to be restricted. The movement has to be restricted of the conical glass. Now we need to add KMnO4 slowly, gradually. Why? Because we need to give time for the reactions which are happening. Initially only the pink color is developed, but then you go on stirring it with a circular motion, and we do it like this. With the left hand we just encircle this thumb and the rest of the fingers around this, but then if you are not comfortable doing that, you can use right hand operating this stopper and add drop by drop. Whatever reading you are taking, you take a correct reading only, direct, and take a direct accurate reading only, because in 11th we had taught you how to take pilot reading. You write the pilot reading, but in this you need to take directly the reading which is accurate reading. So I am adding drop by drop. KMnO4 solution is to be added very slowly for allowing the reactions to happen comfortably. There are some side reactions that MnO2 ion is to be formed, that has to react with potassium ion. So K2SO4 is to be formed, MnSO4 is to be formed, isn't it? So that reactions have to comfortably happen. Then the carbon dioxide will be released. Okay, so now carbon dioxide is being released, but it is invisible, and it is coming out of the reaction mixture as I am shaking it, because the temperature is hot. The gas, we add carbon dioxide being gas, it will evaporate very easily. It will come out of the reaction mixture very easily, and it will not give me any backward reaction. Reverse reaction will not happen. So KMnO4, to get the accurate reading, addition of KMnO4 reaction from the burette has to be done drop by drop, drop by drop. Which drop is bringing the color change in the conical flask, that I need to observe. Now I have kept the drops, falling of the drops, that rate very slow right now, because I am explaining to you also. Now after some time I will just increase the rate and then again slow down. In 11th standard I had taught you acid base titration, that is, suppose you find out a pilot reading between 9 to 10. So up till 9 ml you add straight away the solution, and then you add drop by drop, like that I had taught you. So here, but it is a KMnO4 titration. So for a redox titration, we need to add KMnO4 drop by drop. That care is to be taken. I am increasing the rate of this. And also, if the reaction mixture is not properly heated, you don't have to boil. If you boil, then the color change may not be pink, it may be brown. Okay, so that brown color change we do not want. So therefore, just right temperature it has to be till the vapors come out. And now I am adding KMnO4, still I am adding drop by drop. Only the rate of addition is slightly increased, and I am shaking this conical flask in a circular motion so that whatever color that is camenophore color is there, that color is disappearing. Only when I reach the end point, the disappearance of color will not happen. Camenophore here is acting as a self-indicator that we have written in the observation. Self-indicator means acid-base saturation. We were either using phenolphthalein as an indicator or we were using methyl orange as an indicator. So here camenophore itself is pink in color. So that self-pink color makes it act as self-indicator. Okay, and it imparts the color. So at end point, what is happening? Till end point, oxalic acid molecules step by step, mole by mole are reacting, or say molecule by molecule is reacting with every drop of camenophore that is added. Once all the molecules of oxalic acid have reacted with this camenophore, then there is no more oxalic acid left, isn't it, to react with camenophore. And therefore at end point what happens, the entire solution in the conical flask becomes pink in color, because all the oxalic acid molecules have converted either to manganese sulfate or potassium sulfate. And therefore whatever, even if I add one drop, then that one drop has no oxalic acid left in the conical flask and the color imparted will be pink. So that is what exactly the end point means. End point is the reaction or is the point at which the reaction goes to completion, which is indicated by the indicator color change. The solution of the indicator shows the color change. So as the drops are falling and I have increased the rate of falling, and I am shaking the conical flask. I have increased the rate, and then drop by drop the solution is falling. At the same time, with the right hand I am shaking the conical flask with steadily in a circular motion like this, so that what is happening, whatever drop that are falling, they are imparting initially color, pink color, but that color disappears. The color is disappearing, that means there is some oxalic acid still left in the conical flask, which is still reacting with the camenophore solution. So let us go on adding drop by drop the solution and see which drop brings about the color change. I just glance at the burette, it is reached at 5 ml. So when you are nearing the end point, the pink color that is imparted, that remains for little more time. Okay, so that indicates that we are reaching end, taking more time to disappear the pink color. The solution in the conical flask, you should not, very vigorously you should not stir, because it will splash out of the conical flask. That should not happen. Circular motion, a slight jerk you have to give, so that that continuous motion, circular motion, will make the things mix very well, the camenophore as well as the oxalic acid, and the color is disappearing. So now the disappearance of the pink color taking little more time. So maybe we are nearing the end point. Let us see. We reached 9 ml. It's taking more time, so maybe I am reaching the end point. Let's see. But now I have just slowed down the addition. I stopped in fact. So now I'll add only a drop at a time. See, it's taking more time now to disappear the pink color. That is an indication we are reaching the end point. See, slightly more time now. Look at this. See, that drop imparted the color. light pink color. This is the color I should get, the color change. Please note down this color. And the reading in the view rate is 8. After 8 there are 5 lines. The upper meniscus is touching 8.5 line. Okay, so my reading is 8.5. Okay, so what I should do, we have got the view rate reading or a tighter reading 8.5. So don't enter it in the tabular column. See, this is how you have to write your experiment. Your aim, requirements, theory, procedure, and the result at the bottom on the right hand side. Suppose this page is not sufficient, then you turn the page and on the right hand side you continue writing and the result should be at the bottom of the page. Okay, left hand side is the observations, then the observation table, this tabular column, then below that you do the calculations. Now don't enter the reading directly into the tabular column. What you should do is you should write down the reading with the pencil here. So first reading 8.5. Okay, like this with the pencil you enter the reading. You should get the same reading every time, and that same reading should be entered in the tabular column. This is the page I am showing you, tabular column. See, suppose 8.5, first reading 8.5, 0, 8.5. Second also you should get 8.5, 0, 8.5. And third reading also you should get 8.5, 0, 8.5. So because of our reading, we took directly the accurate reading, we did not take pilot reading. So seeing that reading, you write the pilot reading. Since our actual reading is 8.5, our pilot reading will be between 8 to 9 ml. So you will write down pilot reading as 8 to 9 ml, 0, 8 to 9. This is how you will enter it. Okay, this is how you will enter it. The accurate reading, you write it with the pencil on the side column like this. And once you finalize with the reading, only then you enter it in the tabular column. Don't enter any reading directly in the tabular column. That care needs to be taken. After taking the readings, you will repeat this process which I explained to you of taking the actual reading till you get the constant reading, same reading every time. After that, you make a tabular column and then do the calculations. Calculations are for what? You are asked to determine normality. So to calculate normality, whatever way I have given the calculation, same way you write it. One example calculation I have given here. Okay, I have assumed that the titer reading is 11.2. But here instead of 11.2, it will be whatever reading that you are getting for that titration. You will write down that reading and accordingly you will do the calculation using that formula. N1V1 is equal to N2V2. And then you have to, second calculation is to calculate the grams per 600 ml. Okay, so the formula you have to use. I will send you another PDF regarding the normality calculation, molarity calculation later. Okay, thank you very much.